Hello, my name is Antonio, and what we're going to talk about today is whether or not NASCAR is considered a sport. And obviously, I brought two of my buddies with me. I got my soccer ball. We all know that soccer is a sport. You know, everybody plays soccer. Got my basketball. Everybody who thinks about sports, those are the kind of sports that you think about. You know, you think about football, you think about basketball, you think about soccer, baseball. You know, the basic sports that you would consider as a sport. But I'm here to tell you that NASCAR is a sport, and we're going to explain to you exactly why, NASCAR is a sport. I'm watching TV, and I'm going to tell you how this came about. I'm watching TV, and I'm watching some analysts on TV, and the question comes up, is NASCAR a sport? So, they pose this question to Donovan McNabb. And if you don't know him, Donovan McNabb is he's a former quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. So he had a great career. So you would think if you ask this guy what a sport is, he would absolutely know. So when they asked this guy, Donovan McNabb, hey Donovan, what do you think this is a sport? Absolutely not, Donovan says. So now, I'm not an NFL player by any means, but I have been playing sports for most of my life, and I know that most of you have too. So we will be able to recognize a sport when we see one. But with that being said, first thing I want to do is I want to actually define what a sport is. So I'm going to read this so that we don't get anything wrong with this thing. I'm going to read it exactly off of what we have. So, based off of dictionary.com, a sport is an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess and often of a competitive nature. So, with that definition, we're going to narrow this thing down and you're going to see exactly why NASCAR is a sport. So first things first, when you're determining an athletic activity, you first need to have athletes. So what ESPN did was they did a study on a NASCAR driver, and this is a division of ESPN. It's actually ESPN Sports Sciences, and what they do is, they take all kinds of athletes and they measure them. They do everything scientific tests, and what they do is they get these results. And they compare these results to previous players who've had the same results, and they look at what type of success those guys have had, and they kind of predict whether, based off of these tests, if these guys are going to be successful in their future or not. But what they did was they found a driver who was willing to submit to these tests. So they put sensors in his car. They actually had him swallow a sensor as well, so they wanted to know what was going on in his body at the time. So what the sensors, the results of the study showed that there were temperatures upwards of 130 degrees in the car throughout the race. So that's pretty hot. Then what they wanted to do, they checked his body and the results from the body reports, and they said that he had 3.5 pints of perspiration per hour. He sweated out 13 pounds of water weight throughout the course of the race. And his neck was subjected to 40 pounds of G-forces in the turns. So, and his heart rate was at 130. Now, a heart rate of 130, that's comparative to an endurance runner. So that's where his heart rate would be. If you're an endurance runner, your heart rate will be roughly in the 130 range throughout the race. So that's pretty significant for a race car driver who's sitting in a car going around circles to have that type of heart rate. The 40 pounds of G-forces on their neck throughout the race and the turns. We're talking about 400 laps. We're talking about twice. You're going around the turns twice in one lap. So 400 times 2, you're doing 800 reps of 40 pounds on your neck. So, I don't think there's any question that these guys are athletes. So the first part of our definition of athletic activity, we got athletes performing an athletic activity. And the next part is, does this sport require skill? And I think this is absolutely one of the most skilled sports that you can be in. These cars, for these drivers, they have to maintain great reflexes. These reflexes allow these drivers to drive their cars inches away from each other at speeds upwards of 200 miles an hour. So it's not like driving down the street. These guys are going 200 miles an hour, and they're inches away from each other. It takes great reflexes. It takes years to produce these type of precise reflexes that these guys have. So the same amount of time that athletes that play football and basketball, when they start off at 5 years old and 4 years old and 3 years old, they get these start honing their skills. These drivers are doing the same thing. Whether it's from little small dirt bikes to small cars, they're honing these skills the same way that any other athlete would be. So we're talking about, we got an athlete that's performing an athletic activity. We have precise skills that we have and of a competitive nature to speak towards that with the cars that these guys are driving these days, and the templates and the different things that the rules that they have to perform to. Any given Sunday, any driver could win a race. So we're talking about a competitive sport. An athletic activity is 100% a sport. So with that being said, I don't see why anyone would ever question the fact of whether NASCAR is a sport. So like I said, we have an athletic activity performed by athletes. We have skill, we have physical prowess, and we also have a competitive nature. That's 100% the definition of a sport based off of dictionary.com. And I don't see how anybody can go against that. The proof is in the facts. And what I would ask that anybody would do is support your local track. Go out and go to a race, and you'll understand, and you'll get to see these things going on, and you'll understand why the other 75 million people that watch this sport, making it the second largest watched sport on TV, you'll understand exactly why they go out. So thank you for your time, and if anybody has any questions, just let me know. And I want to make fans out of everyone. So thank you again for your time. Thanks.